Today we're talking about credit cards versus debit cards. And do you need both? Should you have both? Do you even need a credit card or not need a credit card? Conversation I get asked about all the time. And I know for many younger people, credit cards get them into a lot of trouble. And how this all came up was the other day, my son, his debit card, obviously with direct access to his checking account, got compromised. And he did not have, or does not have, at least at the time, did not have a credit card. And, he was so fearful of getting a credit card because he's afraid he might overspend on it, or, he's so anti-debt that he just did not want to have one. And we had a nice conversation about the pros and cons of why you would or wouldn't want a credit card, what you can use them for, and those kind of things. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that today and my opinions on credit cards and debit cards and should you have them or not. And if you're someone who listens, and I like some of his information, but if you're someone who listens to Dave Ramsey would tell you there's no need for a credit card. You absolutely positively can go through life without a credit card. It's not something you should have. You don't need it. You should just use a debit card. And in some regards, I don't disagree with him. But to me, here's why I personally have a credit card and why I use credit cards. And when I say credit cards, it's not a lot of them. I have one credit card for my business. I have one credit card for my personal, and then the members on my team have access and they have a credit card to that same account. And then same thing, I have a debit card for my personal account. I have a debit card for my credit card or for my work account. And here's why I have them both. If you use your debit card, which was what Dave Ramsey would tell you to do, use that debit card and spend your own money. Here's the negative to it, is that when you use that debit card, that is giving someone direct access to the money in your checking account. And if most people are trying to keep, let's say, 1 month or maybe 2 months worth of money to cover their overhead in their checking account, then that's a decent amount of money for someone to be able to have access to that could compromise your account. Somehow they get access just like they do on a credit card, and they go from there. And here's my thought on that is, I would rather use the bank's money. I would rather use a credit card, and if somebody gets access to it or spends money on it, there's more protection. I don't care what anybody says. It is easier to have that discussion with the credit card company and their money versus my money. Because I know this. My girlfriend just had this happen in her checking account. Her account was compromised, a couple of $100s, and the bank doesn't want to give her money back. And now she may end up being out a couple of $100s. And not that couldn't happen on your credit card, but with credit cards, it seems to me that you have a much more protected situation. You're arguing about their money and not yours. And more times than not, anytime I've had my cards compromised through my credit card, typically you get your money back. You get that refund. It might take a little bit of time. They usually give you access right away, and then they're going to check on it. It is very rare for you not to win. So for me, this is why I like to have both. So that I just feel like the protections, the fraud protection, all that is just much better on a credit card. But now, here is where you need to be careful. And I'm talking very careful. And this is one thing that I do agree with Dave Ramsey on, is that when people have a credit card, it is much, much easier to overspend. It is not money that you have access to. It's not your money. It's someone else's money. And it is easy to start swiping that card and forgetting where you use it or how much you spend on it. And, all the stories about, well, I'm playing the game and I'm trying to build up miles and points and build up credit. Well, you only need a credit score to borrow money. And yes, it is nice because for many people, especially early on starting out, you do need some credit, whether it is to get a small car loan for an inexpensive car or to get a small mortgage, whether that's 15 or 30 years and not get too crazy on a house that you want to buy. And you will get lower interest rates if you have better credit. Now, of course, Dave will also tell you, well, there's types of loans you can get without a credit score. I'm sure there are. I just think there's a lot more available loans and a lot more credit programs if you actually have a credit score and access to credit. So I think they are a necessary evil. But again, you have to be very, very cautious and careful because credit cards, right up there with car loans and student loans, are my three main drivers on wealth killers, budget busters, and things that cause young people to have a really time getting ahead of the game. Because again, people graduate high school, they go borrow money to go to college, money they don't have at a college that's too expensive for a degree that may not be very useful. And while you're in college getting your student loan debt built up, Do you also then get access to credit cards? It was amazing the amount of credit card applications that were given to me while I was in credit, and not making any money while I was in college. Even when I got a job later, then they even came more and faster. And then, of course, you get out of college and you want to get rid of your college car that maybe you got when you were 16 in high school, and you go out and get a car. And now you've hit the triple whammy of really not smart things to do in order to build up your long-term wealth. So just be very cautious and careful with credit cards. Now, with that being said, I just think it's nice to have a credit card. And even if you are someone who pays the bill in full every month, like I am, it is still easy for you to spend more than you should. And so, for example, credit card companies, the reason why they're offering out points and gadgets and gizmos and free this and cash back for that is because they know that eventually most people will screw that up, and most people will eventually end up carrying a balance over. And I know that the majority of income that a credit card company makes every month is not in your annual fees. It's not in your fees, like when you charge at a company where they pay a 1%, 2%, 3% fee to swipe for a merchant. That's not where the most of the credit card money comes from. It comes from you carrying a balance and paying ridiculously high interest rates as upwards of 30%. So here's an example. Talking with one of my friends who were trying to help her get her credit figured out. And lucky for her, she had 2 credit cards, too. And luckily, the balances were not overly big, relatively small. I think both were under $2,000, so not crazy amounts of credit on there. And I asked her, do you know what your interest rate on these are? And she had no idea. Well, we looked them right up there on the spot, on the phone. And both cards, one was 30 point something percent, one was 31%. And so she was totally embarrassed, like, oh my God, I can't believe I did not realize that these rates were so high. Now, lucky she's carrying a balance forward. The balances are not overly big, and we've got one already paid off. We're working on getting the second one paid off, and she's doing the things in order to get that done. And, people will tell you, well, if you close a credit card, then it will crush your credit score. Well, that's the least of your concerns when all of a sudden you have a balance you're carrying forward on credit cards, car loans, student loans, and other debts. Hey, do I think it's nice to have one credit card open? Yes. And I kind of think for some people, if that is in the short term while your finances aren't in great shape, a way to have an emergency fund, yes. Are there lots of credit cards out there that have lower interest rates that you can find? Yeah. And there's a million different kind of credit cards to figure out what might be the best one for your current situation. But if you think that you're going to get wealthy or you're going to win the game of money and finance trying to play these games on credit card points and credit card miles, and yeah, I have this credit card because I travel a lot, it gives me free access to a lounge at the airport or whatever it might be, no, that's not really going to get you ahead financially. That is just going to be one of those things where you're just putting yourselves in a really bad spot. And so again, be careful. I don't think anyone really needs more than 1 or 2 credit cards. I only have the 2 because, like I said, I use one for work and one for personal. But again, I have those apps on my phone. I check them regularly to make sure nobody's gotten access to them. I check them regularly so I know what expenses are going through. And in all honesty, what we're doing is, for my work one, setting up all the automatic payments, all the things that come through on a regular basis monthly so that they're on those accounts. And I can earn some, mileage and some points and things on there that I use. But again, not trying to use that as some sort of win. And I'm not going to charge things on there just because I can earn more. I do it as more of a safety precaution because I don't want people to have access to my checking account. Okay. Now, debit card, use it in the ATM machine. That's how you get money in and out of the ATM machine. And then I do know for people that do not want to have access to a credit card, you can use that debit card to pay your bills every month so that you're not writing checks, so you can pay your water, your cable, your internet, your trash bill, whatever it might be. You can set those all up rather than giving them access to your credit card information. But if you're doing that, I know for me, I spend about 2 minutes a day. I'll go on my banking app. I will look and I will see what debits showed up and I will see what charges came through, just so that if something comes up that I don't recognize, I can combat it immediately and not have it be a week or 2 later and that money's come through. Now I don't know what happened. And of course, now I've been, potentially overdraw an account or do something along those lines. So, do you need them? Do you not? That is solely up to you. It's a matter of, are you disciplined enough to have a credit card in your pocket and pay attention to the way that you're using it and pay attention to the way that they should be used. I just think that there's something you should have. Dave Ramsey disagrees, and he's allowed to disagree because, he's got longer skin in the game on this one, and he never used a credit card. Now, again, he is a very wealthy person, and I think for very wealthy people, sometimes they're forgetting what's happening in the real game out there that people are working on a regular basis. All right, I want to get real serious with you guys real quick. I pulled to the side. I'm now looking at you guys. I want to talk to you, and I have a couple of notes here on the smart ways. If you're going to have a credit card, again, I want you to be very cautious with credit cards. They are not for the faint of heart. You do not want to put yourself in a position where you really screw yourself up. But if you're going to do them, get a starter entry beginner card. This is what I just did with my son. We got him a starter entry card. So that way, in the short term, while he couldn't get access to his debit card and get access to his checking account unless he wrote checks, he had another way to be able to spend money. But get a beginner card. No annual fee, no perks and bonuses, just access to a card with maybe $1,000, $2,500 limit so that you don't need to get too crazy and be able to have access to too much money. So you can limit that. Put one or two bills. So like I told him on his, use it for nothing more than, let's say, groceries and gas. And then every month you're going to know it's a good way to monitor for your budget, your groceries and gas. And don't use it for anything else. Just groceries and gas. It's a good starter way to have that on hand and be able to use it in a way that is responsible and smart and that kind of thing. Another one here is make sure you set up every month for it to auto pay so that on X day, the bill is going to get paid in full every month. And if you want, I know he does this because he doesn't like to carry a debt. He'll go in there a few days afterwards and he'll just pay it multiple times during the month. You could do that too. But even still, set up the auto pay so that somehow if you accidentally were to forget, the money would come out, you'd see it out of your checking account, and then you wouldn't have to worry about, oh my God, I just carried over and now I'm paying some interest, okay? A third one is, after 6 or 12 months, and you're feeling good about this, you can ask them to raise the limit, or maybe you can see if that particular company you got a card with maybe has a better card, so now you feel good enough to say, hey, I tried it, and now I do want to earn a few points or some miles or some whatever the things might be, but just know that's just a total trick that they use to try to buy you in. But again, if you can use it to your benefit a little bit, just use it cautiously. It's not a wealth building tool. It's not a big skill. And again, if you're going to use it for travel and hotels and all that kind of stuff, just like I said, don't think you're going to get or trick them into making a bunch of money and winning the game on this. So again, that is where I would start. So the reason why you want a credit card, again, is to help you establish credit. Because for me, one of my long-term wealth building tools for people is buying a house. And if you want to buy a house, if you don't have an established credit score, it just makes it more difficult. Can you still do it without a credit score? Yes. Can you find ways that you can get a home loan without having a great credit score? Yes. It's just going to be a whole lot better if your credit score is 750, 800. You're going to get better interest rates, better loans, better access. Just my opinion. You could disagree. So let's recap this. Use it as a tool. It is easy to get trapped in a credit card hell and be all of a sudden carrying a balance for it. And so just be very cautious. Credit cards are not for kids. They are not for people that don't understand their finances. And if you're someone that just is not able to have that balance there, you have access to this money, then don't get one. Okay. This is more of just a way to try to establish credit so that when you want to buy a house, a higher credit score is going to get you just better access to a bunch of things. Okay. And the debit cards, to me, you can use them, but just use them for your ATM machine. They're just more dangerous. I don't want people having access to my checking account. So I rarely use mine. Literally, I just use in the ATM machine. And just know, if you're going out to eat, you're going to the grocery store, just pay cash or don't use your debit card because it's just, you don't want people to have access to that stuff. And if you use them correctly, great. But both of these are tools. They are not going to make you rich. They are not going to make you wealthy. These are things you just have to understand how they work and how to use them so you can be smart about them. But this is one of the ways we are not going to build wealth. Credit cards are not a wealth building tool. They're an easy way to overspend. So just I know I've said this multiple times now, just be careful, be cautious, and know how these work. If you have questions, let me know. I'd love to hear your stories about some of the cards that you maybe use as a beginner, some of the cards that maybe you use now, just so that we can help some other people on their journey getting started into this financial literacy game and understanding the pros and cons of how all this stuff works. But just be cautious again. Thanks for watching. And if you're enjoying the content we're putting out there, check out this video we did right here about building up your long-term wealth.